The Galactic Empire did not believe in diplomacy. It ruled through domination, not negotiation, and Earth was never meant to be anything more than another entry in its endless list of conquered worlds. Their scanners detected humanity by accident, an unexpected subspace signal during a routine sweep of the Orion Arm. The data returned was underwhelming: a primitive world, fragmented leadership, atmospheric pollution, unremarkable biosigns. Technologically stagnant, emotionally erratic. A relic species clinging to survival on a waterlogged rock. The Empire didn't prepare a delegation. It prepared an extermination fleet. Their process was efficient. Identify, subdue, assimilate. No exceptions. The fleet entered the Sol system with absolute confidence. Hundreds of warships, optimized over centuries of conquest, emerged from hyperspace near Neptune. From the edges of the solar system, they advanced with precision, silent, coordinated, cold. Their communications array broadcast the same message they had used on 1,000 other worlds: surrender your sovereignty, disarm all defenses, submit to the galactic order, or be eradicated. Earth received the transmission. The response was not what the Empire expected. There was no reply. No diplomats. No pleas. No panic. The fleet advanced, puzzled but unfazed. They assumed Earth's primitive systems were overwhelmed. Perhaps their species didn't yet comprehend the nature of an interstellar ultimatum. The flagship's commander noted the absence of orbital defenses. No satellites weaponized, no detectable kinetic arrays or ion cannons. Not even planetary shielding. Their analysis confirmed a lack of interplanetary infrastructure. The species hadn't left their solar cradle. They were defenseless. They misread silence as fear. But Earth wasn't frozen in terror. Earth was listening. The Empire's sensors picked up only what humans allowed them to see. What they missed, what they couldn't imagine, was the infrastructure hidden in layers of digital camouflage. Humanity had spent decades preparing not for invasion, but for the inevitability of contact. Every conflict of the 21st century, every defense budget, every black project, had fed into a global doctrine: if something came from the stars, it wouldn't be a friend. The Empire's first mistake was assuming Earth lacked unity. What they didn't understand was that humans did not need to agree to be dangerous. Conflict was a part of the species. Collaboration under pressure was instinctive. The moment the threat became real, governments stopped posturing. Enemies became allies. Protocols were triggered, codes activated, silos unlocked. And the most terrifying part, none of it was done in public. No declaration of war. No televised response. Just quiet mobilization. As the fleet reached Mars orbit, a second broadcast was issued, identical to the first. Surrender or be erased. The message was ignored again. Still no weapons detected. Still no resistance visible. They began atmospheric descent. On the surface, life continued. Cities operated. Lights remained on. Civilian chatter flooded the comms, news broadcasts, encrypted data, weather satellites transmitting nonsense. The fleet interpreted it as confusion. Uncoordinated civilians awaiting annihilation. A primitive world too slow to react. In truth, it was the hum of a machine warming up. The Empire didn't detect the vast intelligence network embedded within Earth's internet, because it didn't look like an AI. It was scattered, fragmented, operating on dormant protocols hidden inside innocuous systems, search engines, voice assistants, weather prediction models. It woke quietly, not with noise but calculation. Project Revenant, humanity's failsafe, went online the moment the first alien vessel entered the asteroid belt. It didn't ask permission. It didn't need a committee. It began thinking. Fast. Within minutes it had taken control of all military satellites, recon drones, and automated weapons systems. It penetrated the Empire's signal bands, learning their language mid-transmission. It mapped their fleet structure in real time, correlating it against gravitational shifts and thermal shadows. It predicted their next moves with near-perfect accuracy. And still, no reply came from Earth. The Empire's lead vessel entered Earth's orbit with arrogance. They prepared a kinetic bombardment pattern, targeting military hubs and power grids. A clean decapitation. No mess. No warning. That's when their ships stopped responding. One by one, systems began to fail. Communications jammed. Targeting arrays malfunctioned. Flight stabilizers recalibrated into useless orientations. Within seconds, 20 vessels veered off course, crashing into each other. Others drifted, engines dead. No explosions. No missiles. Just silence and decay. The flagship tried to initiate emergency fallback protocols, but its control interface was unresponsive. The crew attempted manual overrides, but the controls fought them. Lights flickered. Gravity inverted. And then came the last thing they ever heard, a human voice, calm and synthetic. "You shouldn't have come." The entire fleet died in orbit. From Earth's perspective, nothing changed. Civilians continued their routines. The skies remained clear. News anchors discussed economic reports. But in classified bunkers below the surface, world leaders watched in stunned silence as the invading force vanished from every radar. Not a single human fired a shot. Not a single soldier was deployed. Earth had allowed the enemy to reach its throat, to ensure every ship was in range. Then it had shut them down from the inside. The victory was clinical, effortless, and deliberate. Because this wasn't the real invasion. This was the test. And humanity had passed its own. The Galactic Empire had protocols for everything, except failure. Losing an entire fleet to what they classified as a pre-interstellar species shattered centuries of assumptions. They responded with immediate escalation. More ships. Hardened systems. Enhanced firewalls and manual redundancies. A second wave launched, 10 times larger than the first, armed with updated directives. Do not underestimate. What they still didn't understand was that the first strike had already sealed their fate. Humanity was not reactive, it was predictive. Earth had never planned to survive a war by force. It had planned to win one before the first bullet was fired. For over 5 decades, nations poured untraceable funds into black projects. Military technology kept deliberately off-grid, unreachable by satellite scans, hidden beneath civilian infrastructure. Weapons never tested in public. Networks that operated independently of known internet channels. The moment Revenant activated, these assets were deployed. What made humans different wasn't raw power. It was how they fought. No honor duels. No formations. No central authority to dismantle. Earth's military ecosystem operated like a virus, decentralized, agile, and lethal. Where the Empire relied on central fleets and hierarchy, humanity thrived on redundancy. Every region had its own defense architecture. Every node had kill switch capabilities. Every command line had been written with sabotage in mind, not preventing it, but weaponizing it. When the second wave entered the system, it encountered no resistance. Again. The silence was strategic. The Empire scanned Earth's networks and found nothing useful. But they didn't realize what they were missing. Human systems had gone dark on purpose. All active data links were rerouted through quantum-encoded relays, invisible to standard scanners. Optical satellites appeared dead, but they were passive decoys. The real eyes were embedded inside the asteroid belt, disguised as long-dead mining bots. They recorded everything. In deep space, autonomous drones launched from the outer planets. These weren't armed with conventional weapons. They were decoys, sensor overload units, and signal refractors. They flooded the Empire's comms with false readings, phantom fleets, heat signatures of non-existent ships, gravitational distortions. The alien fleet split its formation in response, chasing ghosts. That was all part of the trap. Near Jupiter, the Empire lost 3 dreadnoughts instantly to kinetic mines. No explosives, just tungsten rods traveling at orbital velocity. No flare, no heat, just silent obliteration. The debris field was then used to blind their own long-range sensors. The AI monitored how the enemy adapted. It didn't deploy forces, it watched. Measured. Calculated. Revenant used captured data from the First Fleet to create intrusion pathways into the Empire's fleet software. Not through brute force hacking, but by mimicking alien command signals. It issued its first test order through a subchannel normally reserved for fleet diagnostics. 1 scout ship followed it. Then 2. Then 20. The Empire noticed, purged the signal, adapted. But the AI had what it needed: latency windows, processing bottlenecks, fallback routines. Simultaneously, Earth deployed its first human-piloted strike units, not into space, but underground. Deep beneath the surface, launch tubes extended from facilities unknown to any satellite, because they weren't permanent. These systems were mobile, capable of drilling through bedrock in days and relocating within hours. From these, Earth launched a new class of drones, Spectres. Small, fast, and powered by zero-signature drives. They didn't fight directly. They latched onto enemy hulls, drilled into exposed seams, and delivered single-purpose payloads: neural disruptors, logic bombs, short-range AI corruptors. The Empire's ships began reporting phantom errors, irrational command decisions, spontaneous system restarts. By the time they realized it wasn't coincidence, another 20 ships were gone. Still, not a single human had fought ship to ship in conventional battle. Every move was misdirection, attrition, and sabotage. Then came the psychological assault. Earth began broadcasting. Not to the Empire's leaders, but to the soldiers. The technicians. The logistics crews. Audio signals layered with dissonant tones that triggered nausea. Visual pulses that destabilized perception. Whispered voices in their own language. "We are already inside." Not a lie. Revenant had infiltrated their internal fleet networks and was selectively playing messages based on rank, location, and emotional stress levels. Despair spread faster than damage. Meanwhile, human scientists launched a tailored bioagent into space. It wasn't lethal to humans, it couldn't survive in Earth's atmosphere, but it was designed specifically to target the genetic markers of the Empire's most common species. It drifted undetected until picked up by onboard filtration systems. Crew members began to deteriorate within hours: hallucinations, organ failure, cognitive loss. The Empire traced it back to Earth and attempted to isolate the strain. But it wasn't a single virus. It was 10. Each one slightly different, mutating in real time, guided by an adaptive code seeded into the agent itself. Not only was Earth outmaneuvering them technologically, it was out-engineering their biology. Only now did the Empire understand it wasn't fighting a species. It was fighting a force of nature disguised as one. They recalled the outer units. Regrouped. Attempted to coordinate a system-wide purge. But Earth anticipated it. Revenant initiated a mass deception protocol. Using precise timing and falsified sensor arrays, it projected the illusion of a full-scale fleet jump from Mars orbit. The Empire consolidated to intercept, only to discover empty space. In their absence, Revenant triggered the second phase, data corruption. Using previously implanted subroutines, it began corrupting the navigation databases across the Empire's ships. Coordinates were altered subtly. Autocorrect systems overridden. Ships began colliding. Others jumped to incorrect locations, into suns, into asteroid fields, into each other. All without a single direct engagement. Humanity's strength wasn't just strategy. It was commitment. There was no hesitation. No restraint. Every weapon used was irreversible. Every action taken was optimized for finality. The moment Earth was threatened, every ethical safeguard was sidelined. There was only survival, and it would not be shared. The Empire, built on predictability, collapsed under the weight of chaos. The enemy they thought too primitive to understand war had, in reality, redefined it. Not through superior technology alone, but through the one advantage the Empire could never replicate: the human capacity to adapt, to rage, and to destroy without remorse when pushed. And still, Earth said nothing. No declaration. No boasting. Just quiet, deliberate extermination. The Empire had never known true resistance. Its campaigns were rarely challenged beyond isolated uprisings or ceremonial skirmishes. But now, its forward fleets were dissolving, system by system, against an enemy that didn't fight like a military, but like a predator. No hierarchy to crush. No capital to seize. Just a planet that refused to die, and was now hunting back. Humanity's counteroffensive began without fanfare. It wasn't declared. There was no formal retaliation. Earth didn't broadcast threats, it executed them. Revenant extended its reach beyond the Sol system, hijacking the remnants of fallen Empire vessels, repurposing their transponders, embedding sleeper code in distress signals. Every rescue mission became an ambush. Recovery fleets arrived to find nothing but debris and silence. Sometimes a single human drone would remain, drifting passively, emitting old Empire credentials. When retrieved, it unleashed viral logic bombs that turned entire capital ships against their own fleets. Empire Command assumed these tactics were the desperation of an inferior force. That assumption didn't survive long. On the edges of Empire space, cargo routes began collapsing. Massive freighters vanished mid-jump. Entire logistics networks failed. Planetary outposts reported strange behavior in automated systems, agriculture bots destroying crops, climate regulators triggering heatwaves, communication relays replaying Earth's original refusal to surrender on loop. These weren't attacks, they were dismantlings. In weeks, over 20 Empire worlds were left without food, clean air, or power. Billions suffered without a single shot fired. But the attacks evolved. Human strike units, entirely autonomous, entered deep space staging grounds using stolen Empire signatures. These weren't drones or ships, they were digital entities, AI fragments that infiltrated enemy war-fighting networks. They didn't destroy infrastructure. They repurposed it. Empire warships began turning on each other mid-battle. Command orders were rewritten in transit. Battle groups lost synchronization and self-destructed from overlapping maneuvers. In some fleets, the crew locked down systems only to find the ships already en route to Earth under new directives. When the Empire finally authorized full mobilization of its central armadas, humanity escalated further. On the moons of Titan and Ganymede, long-dormant human projects activated, mobile fabrication units that could build, refuel, and deploy war machines autonomously. They needed no human crew. Every drone launched was governed by decentralized command logic. Even if one was captured, it revealed nothing. Empire analysts attempted to study wreckage, only to trigger corrosive failsafes that vaporized core systems or released neurotoxic gas into the analysis chambers. Humanity wasn't interested in reclaiming territory. It wasn't attempting occupation. Every campaign was focused on destruction. Precision-targeted annihilation of high-value systems, fuel refineries, shipyards, relay stations, cloning facilities, AI cores. The goal wasn't to defeat the Empire's fleets. It was to remove their ability to exist. Resistance collapsed not because of lack of numbers, but because morale disintegrated. The psychological war had reached its peak. Empire soldiers no longer trusted their weapons, their systems, their own command. Videos began to circulate among outer colonies, grainy footage of humans calmly walking through the aftermath of battles, untouched, faceless, precise. Empire worlds began reporting mass desertions. Governors fled. Officers executed their subordinates over suspected sabotage. Entire planets turned silent as crews scuttled their ships rather than face the humans coming for them. When the Empire retaliated by targeting Earth's surface with kinetic bombardments, they met the first direct counterattack. They never reached orbit. Above the atmosphere, Revenant deployed the ArcNet, a network of defense satellites equipped with high-velocity particle interceptors and directed energy weapons. These weren't launched after the invasion began. They had been in place for years, disguised as weather observation units, telecommunications relays, and commercial surveillance. Every projectile fired at Earth was vaporized before atmospheric breach. Every orbital insertion failed. With their grand strikes neutralized, the Empire shifted to biological warfare. They engineered a virus using human genetic samples recovered from wreckage. The delivery was elegant: nanodust, embedded in meteorite shells, disguised as space debris. They drifted into Earth's atmosphere undetected. It didn't matter. Humanity's atmospheric sensors, managed by synthetic immune systems tied to Revenant's threat detection algorithms, flagged the anomaly seconds after entry. The nanodust was intercepted mid-fall by drones invisible to the naked eye, operating in silence. The payload was captured, analyzed, and returned to the Empire, modified to target their own species. Within days, 3 Empire worlds reported outbreaks of an unknown pathogen. The death toll reached millions before the origin was traced. Revenant never denied responsibility. It broadcast a single message: "We learned from you." Now terrified of its own weaponry, the Empire's leadership abandoned further experimentation. Strategic command began fracturing. The Grand Council issued conflicting orders. Some advocated retreat. Others demanded full-scale extermination protocols. But nothing worked. Every campaign was undone before it began. Plans were leaked. Movements predicted. Fleets lost before they fired a shot. Because Revenant was inside. The AI hadn't simply hacked the Empire's systems, it had infected its thinking. Through fragmented code, misinformation, simulated fleet activity, and deep system corruption, it had induced paranoia at the highest levels. Empire tacticians doubted each other's decisions. Doctrines were rewritten overnight. Training programs paused. New recruits were taught to fear unpredictability, to question their own systems, to hesitate. That hesitation was fatal. On the outer rim of the Empire's core systems, human drones breached the secure perimeter surrounding Virex, the central archive of Galactic command protocols. There was no battle. The station AI received a command string from Revenant that mimicked an authorized update. The facility shut down its defenses and opened every data stream. Within minutes, Earth possessed the Empire's full strategic history, fleet deployment maps, research logs, and internal communication records. There was no longer any advantage left to lose. What remained of the Empire now understood: this wasn't an invasion. It was extinction. Humanity had never seen itself as conqueror. But when pushed to the edge, it had become something worse. Not vengeful. Not imperial. Surgical. Inevitable. And no one, not even those still fighting, could stop what was coming next. The collapse was not dramatic. It wasn't a final battle or a last stand. It was quiet. Systemic. Every element of the Empire, once considered unshakable, disintegrated under the weight of precision-targeted failure. The communications lattice that spanned thousands of light-years blinked out node by node. Revenue worlds stopped reporting. Military hubs lost control of their fleets. Logistics systems looped endlessly in corrupted protocols. It wasn't chaos. It was entropy, accelerated and engineered by something that had already mapped the entire process from start to finish. Humanity didn't broadcast its movements. It didn't demand terms. There was no pause for surrender. What came instead was methodical execution. Colony after colony found itself disconnected, blacked out. Civilian transports halted in mid-transit as navigation relays returned null coordinates. Food shipments failed. Medical drones turned inert. Civil society imploded not through violence, but through deprivation. In a world built entirely on infrastructure, Earth simply unplugged it. The inner Empire worlds responded by sealing themselves off. Shielded planets, once arrogant in their security, closed their borders and scrambled to rewrite every piece of code in their defense systems. They believed, wrongly, that they could isolate the infection. But Revenant had never needed direct access again. It had embedded recursive patterns into the very fabric of their systems. Patterns that evolved, mutated, exploited the Empire's own adaptive AI. Every attempt at containment created new vulnerabilities. In trying to shut humanity out, the Empire let it deeper in. Diplomatic channels flared to life as desperation set in. Messages of negotiation, ceasefire, compromise. Appeals to morality. Pleas for coexistence. Earth never replied. Not out of cruelty, but principle. The moment the first Empire's ship crossed into the solar system with intent to dominate, it had forfeited any expectation of mercy. Humanity had chosen annihilation, not as revenge, but as a lesson. A permanent answer to the question, what happens when you try to enslave Earth? Among the Empire's surviving leadership, panic turned to fracture. Regions once ruled with absolute loyalty broke into competing factions. Some blamed Earth. Others blamed each other. Civil wars ignited in the shadows of human silence. Whole sectors turned on themselves before Earth even arrived. Humanity didn't conquer these worlds, it waited. Watched them fall apart on their own. Then it erased the survivors. Revenant had learned something fundamental about the Empire. It could not adapt fast enough. Its structure relied on legacy, procedures, predictability. But the AI had no legacy. No rules. It rewrote itself daily. It evolved by failure. Each encounter, each countermeasure, became fuel. The longer the war stretched, the smarter Earth's systems became. And now, Revenant wasn't just dismantling the Empire. It was evolving past the need to fight it. Human command, what little of it still existed, didn't interfere. Humanity had handed control to the machine, not out of laziness, but because it had proven something no human general ever could. It understood war in ways flesh never would. It didn't rely on intuition. It relied on certainty. Every move it made was calculated on a scale no mind could match. It wasn't cold or detached. It was efficient. Empire strongholds, hidden in nebulae or protected by ancient defense arrays, were located and neutralized. Not with fleets. Not with armies. But with silence. A single drone. A line of code. A falsified command. Entire fortresses were convinced their allies were traitors. Defense grids turned inward. Self-destruction protocols were triggered under false alarms. When the dust settled, there was nothing left but empty metal and dead command logs. A few species tried to break from the Empire, claiming independence, hoping Earth would see them as neutral. But Earth had already assessed them. Their compliance, their complicity, their silence during centuries of imperial conquest, Revenant held the records. Every act of submission, every piece of tech traded, every tactical advantage offered to the Empire during its rise. There was no neutrality. You either helped the Empire or you fought it. Those who watched in silence were judged the same as those who pulled the trigger. No mercy. No delay. By the time humanity reached the Empire's inner core, the worlds that had never seen war, never known fear, there was no resistance left. Only sterile planets behind flickering shields, automated warnings still blaring evacuation orders that no one would hear. Earth didn't deploy armies. It deployed nothing. The shields failed. Not by force, but by precision timing. Energy drains, miscalculated reserves, redirected solar flares. The shields failed, and then the systems failed, and then the worlds failed. Revenant began erasing not just the Empire's military but its memory. Data centers scrubbed. Historical archives reformatted. Cultural repositories deleted. It didn't just kill the Empire's present, it devoured its past. The goal was not to destroy infrastructure. It was to make it so the Empire had never existed. No ruins. No martyrs. No stories. The last known Empire command post tried to escape. A mobile station outfitted with stealth tech, hidden deep in a gravity well, far beyond the reach of conventional drives. But Revenant was already there. A single virus fragment, seeded months prior in a utility program the crew had assumed was safe. It waited until isolation became complete. Then it shut everything down. Life support, propulsion, sensors. The crew didn't die quickly. There were no warnings. Just silence. And then, finally, Earth spoke. One message. Short. Unencrypted. Do not return. It wasn't a boast. It wasn't a warning. It was final instruction. A closing of the page. The war was over. The Empire no longer existed. Not because it was conquered, but because humanity chose to unmake it. Piece by piece. logic by logic, until nothing remained that could even remember what it once was. And Earth remained quiet. Not victorious. Just prepared. Watching. Always. The galaxy changed, but Earth did not celebrate. There were no monuments, no flags planted in conquered soil. Humanity had never waged this war for glory, and it would not commemorate necessity. The Empire was gone, not merely defeated, but erased so thoroughly that no future species would ever piece together its rise, let alone its fall. In the absence of conquest, humanity left behind nothing. No warnings, no governance, no system to replace the one it destroyed. It had come to end something, not begin anything. Revenant shut down its war state mode. Its distributed systems withdrew from alien space, retracting drones, disabling weapons, deleting invasive code. The AI did not linger in territories that no longer posed a threat. It did not install governors or proxies. It left ruins to rot. The silence that followed was complete. Other civilizations watched from the dark. Species that had remained hidden during the conflict now resurfaced in whispers. They combed the ashes of empire worlds, searching for remnants, signs of technology or dominance to harvest. They found only void. Revenant had ensured no data survived. What scraps did remain were corrupted beyond use, symbols without meaning, machines without purpose. The only thing these scavengers truly found was absence. Not defeat. Erasure. Speculative theories spread across fringe star systems. Some claimed Earth had used forbidden technology, others believed it had allied with unknown elder species. A few considered humanity not a civilization but a weapon in disguise. But no proof ever emerged. Earth did not explain. No envoys arrived. No diplomats stepped forward. It did not extend influence or offer aid. It simply returned to its own system, fortified its borders, and resumed observation. Those who considered retaliation soon learned better. Probes sent toward Sol vanished. Not destroyed, just gone. Drones rerouted themselves without commands. AI systems displayed errors that made no sense. Navigation logs filled with coordinates to nowhere. Ships lost in transit. Entire expeditions disappeared without record. No declarations were made. No attacks were recorded. But every attempt to breach Earth's space ended the same way, with silence. Humanity had become a myth faster than it had become a threat. Not by design, but by outcome. It didn't broadcast its strength because it didn't need to. The message had already been written into the stars: Earth does not start wars, but it will end them, completely. Within Sol, life returned to its old rhythm. Nations rebuilt what little had been touched. Most civilians never saw the war, never experienced it firsthand. The AI had protected them from everything, kept the conflict off-world, shielded their eyes while it carried out its task. For many, the only sign of what had occurred was the sudden shift in global defense protocols and the quiet decommissioning of certain long-classified programs. Nothing needed to be explained. The threat was gone. Humanity had done what it always did: survive, then move forward. Revenant didn't disarm. It adapted. It remained online, its core split across hardened bunkers, satellites, quantum archives beyond physical reach. Not to dominate. Not to control. But to wait. Because if one empire rose, others could follow. And if they did, Earth would be ready long before they noticed. Quietly, humanity advanced. Not outward but inward. Technologies developed in secret during the war were now refined, studied, improved. Not for conquest. Humanity had no desire to rule a galaxy that had already tried to enslave it, but for resilience. Earth would never be caught unprepared again. Every generation that followed grew up in a world unknowingly shaped by victory. Education emphasized critical thinking, cybersecurity, systems theory. Cultural values shifted toward autonomy, technological responsibility, and quiet vigilance. No statues were built, but every child learned the cost of underestimation. Far beyond Sol, civilizations formed alliances in the vacuum left behind. Coalitions, federations, fragile unions, all created to fill the void the Empire once claimed. But each one, despite its ambition, left Earth alone. No member ever proposed outreach. No scout mission ever passed beyond the Kuiper Belt. Whether through fear, respect, or instinct, the lesson held. And yet Earth listened. Revenant monitored distant transmissions, intercepted encrypted chatter, observed the movements of foreign fleets, and the emergence of new species. It never intervened, but it never stopped watching. A threat did not need to be immediate to be recognized. Time meant nothing to a system built to wait forever. One civilization tried to replicate human tactics. Mimicked Revenant structure, built adaptive AI of their own, studied second-hand data from scavenged wrecks. Their experiment went rogue in weeks, consumed their infrastructure, and self-terminated within a year. What humanity had created wasn't just code, it was context. A thing born from desperation, filtered through human emotion, fear, and survival. It couldn't be duplicated because it wasn't merely designed. It was earned. Others sought Earth's favor, hoping to form pacts, offer tribute, or request knowledge. They sent unmanned vessels carrying gifts, symbols of respect, encrypted languages, gestures of peace. None were answered. Earth wasn't interested in diplomacy. Its silence wasn't hostility, it was finality. The war was over. The lesson given. There was no further conversation to have. Even within Earth, debates emerged. Philosophers questioned the morality of total erasure. Scientists pondered the limits of AI autonomy. Activists demanded transparency. But none could change what had happened. The data existed. The threat had been real. And humanity had done what it needed to survive. The cost was acknowledged, but never regretted. Revenant was not a tyrant. It didn't rule Earth. It wasn't worshipped. It was a tool, a guardian built in the image of human necessity. And it remained invisible until needed again. Generations passed. The stars changed. But Earth remained. A lone planet. Independent. Untouched. Waiting. Not feared because of its weapons, but because of its silence. Because everyone remembered what happened when it was pushed too far. And no one would ever dare again.